A little forward before we begin today's video. This video is about a fluorescent lamp ballast I bought on eBay, the Advance HB-234-TP. This is a ballast I've been wanting to get for a long time because it's a ballast that's infamous for being one of the weakest ballasts for F40 T12 lamps in terms of how hard it drives the lamps and how bright the lamps are. This is among the weakest of weak F40 T12 ballasts. So I've been really wanting to get one, and I bought this one on eBay. And what we'll discover sort of in the middle of the video and towards the end is that this ballast behaves so differently from other HB-234-TP ballasts, and it has turned out to be one of the strangest and most unique fluorescent lamp ballasts that I have personally ever come across. It is just so strange, and if you're into lighting stuff, I think you'll find today's video pretty interesting. Hello everybody. Here you see my shop light that I have installed here in the office room. It's a standard cheap shop light that uses two F40 T12 fluorescent lamps. You'll remember we got this light fixture back in December, and it had a bad electronic ballast in it. And I replaced that ballast with a single lamp F40 T12 magnetic preheat ballast, an Advance L140F-TP, which is why you see only one of the two lamps lit up. But you may remember in that video I said that there was one ballast in particular that I'd really like to get my hands on. It's one that I've always wanted to get a hold of and test it and see what it's like. But also I think it would kind of be a perfect ballast for this fixture. So I've had an eBay saved search set up for the last couple of months, and just today I finally got my hands on one that I bought on eBay for 15 bucks. And here it is. It is an Advance HB-234-TP. This is considered one of the worst magnetic F40 T12 ballasts ever made, and I'm really excited to get my hands on this one. So this ballast is a descendant of two ballasts that Advance sold in the 80s and 90s. One was called the Home Bright, and the other was called the Bench Light. Obviously the Home Bright was advertised for residential use, and the bench light was meant to be used in shop lights or some other type of utility light. But both of those ballasts were the same thing. They were really crappy and in a way poor quality F40 T12 ballasts. The most notable thing about them is that they drive F40 T12 lamps very dimly. Very dimly. They push the lamps with very little current. But despite that, the Home Bright and Benchlight ballasts, for some reason, are so inefficient that they get super hot, and you can even kill them by running 34-watt energy-saving lamps in them. Very crappy ballasts. This ballast is the descendant of those. The model HB-234-TP is a ballast that I don't think you could buy retail. I think these were only sold pre-installed in really cheap fixtures. Think those, wraparound fixtures or whatever that you might see in the kitchen of a home or in a laundry room or a basement or something. This is the successor to the Home Bright and Benchlight ballast, and that's where you'll see this one. And like the Home Bright and Benchlight ballast, this ballast is very weak. What people in the lighting community usually do when they find these in a fixture they get is they just change it out for a better ballast and throw it away, which I think is kind of sad because it's still a good working ballast, whether or not it's a ballast that drives the lamps brightly. So I'm glad I've been able to get my hands on one so I can really see just how bad what is purportedly the weakest F40T12 ballast, how bad it really is. It's funny, I've heard of quite a few cases of not only the Homebright and Benchlight ballast, but this particular model of ballast too, failing. I've heard quite a few stories of them failing, so it sounds like not only do they drive the lamps really weakly, but they were probably simply built to a lower standard than Advance's other ballasts. I mean, it's very unlikely to see a magnetic fluorescent lamp ballast die, which I guess kind of makes sense given that they probably built these to just be the cheapest ballast for fixture manufacturers to buy and put in their fixtures that you could go and buy for $20 at Walmart or whatever. But the thing is, I did in particular want the HB-234-TP rather than the Homebright or Benchlight models because this ballast is apparently even weaker than those. Now, my label has different current ratings on it than other older HB-234-TPs, and the current ratings on this actually don't make sense. So I'm wondering if it might have been a misprint or something. But if you look at HB-234-TP ballasts made up until the late 90s, maybe early 2000s, the current ratings, it's so strange, and it's another weird characteristic of the ballast. Because of course there's different current ratings for if you use 40-watt lamps or if you use 34-watt lamps. Well, the current rating for 40-watt lamps on most HB-234-TPs is about 0.45 amps. That's the line current. That's so low. That's so little current, because a full power, high power factor ballast has a current rating usually of around 0.8, 0.85 amps. A theoretical full power, low power factor ballast, and I say theoretical because I'm not sure that a full power, low power factor ballast for 2 lamps exists, but if it did, it would probably have a current rating of over an amp. But this has a current rating, or most HB-234-TPs have a current rating of 0.45 amps on 40-watt lamps. So super, super low. I mean, I remember someone did measurements of theirs, and we're talking like 2 40-watt lamps are each pushed with like 12 watts of power, like really little current. But the funny thing is, and I'm still talking for most HB-234-TPs, if you put 34-watt lamps in them, the rated current is 0.78 amps. It's almost double. And it is normal for a low power factor ballast for the line current to go up as you put smaller lamps in them, because the lower arc voltage of the lamp translates to higher lamp current, which translates to higher line current, and that's normal behavior for low power factor ballast. But that massive jump from 0.45 amps to 0.78 amps just for using 34-watt lamps, that's very unusual. So that's another really weird behavior in the inductive properties of these ballasts. And that's actually why Advance calls these the HB-234-TP. They really intended you to run 34-watt lamps on this ballast, not 40-watt lamps. And because of that giant increase in current when you run 34-watt lamps, these actually power 34-watt lamps way closer to their power rating than they do 40-watt lamps. So that's kind of a hack if you have these ballasts. And you got to get some more light out of them. Actually running 34-watt lamps will get you a bit more light than running 40-watt lamps. And that is the opposite of any normal fluorescent lamp ballast. But again, the Homebright and Benchlight ballasts, they get really, really hot with 34-watt lamps. I think the HB-234-TP handles 34-watt lamps a bit more gracefully. This ballast looks like it's in good shape. It's never leaked tar, and it looks like it's never gotten hot because the label is not discolored or anything. So going back to mine's got different current ratings, and they don't make sense. Take a look at this. For 40-watt lamps, it has a line current of 0.5 amps, so a little bit higher than others. I'm hoping that's not actually true, and that this ballast is more powerful than the others. But for 34 watt lamps, it says 0.45 amps. That makes no sense. Current will not go down for 34 watt lamps versus 40 watt lamps for a low power factor ballast. That's hogwash. There's no way. So that's obviously a misprint. But I'm hoping it means that the slightly higher line current of 0.45 amps or 0.5 amps for 40 watt lamps isn't true. You'll notice there's a third current rating on here. It says 25 watt 48T12RS 0.52 amps. Now I think I mentioned this before in the video of the shop light. I don't know if you can anymore, but you used to be able to buy 40 watt lamps that were shop light lamps or utility lamps, and what they were cheaper than normal F40T12 lamps. They were basically an otherwise standard F40T12 lamp, but they were built with poorer quality cathodes that were basically built to handle less current than a standard F40T12 lamp. They were cheaper, and they were made basically to be used on ballasts like this, that only ran the lamps at 25 watts or less to begin with. So they're generally just referred to as a 25 watt F40T12. But the electrical characteristics are the same as a standard 40 watt F40T12. Unlike the 34 watt F40T12s, which actually have a modification made to the gas fill to lower the arc voltage. So here's what we're going to do today. After all that yakking, we're going to take this fixture down, and we are going to put this ballast in it. And we are going to see just how bad it is. How dimly does this run 40 watt lamps? So I'm very excited. So let's take the shop light down. We'll bring it into the living room where we get where we have more room, and let's do that. There she is, wired up, not yet installed. I have two 40 watt lamps to test here. I also brought out the kilowatt meter so we can measure lamp current. Let's install those lamps and give it a test. All right, here we go. Contact. It's pretty dim. It's also kind of flickery right now, although I haven't used these lamps in a while, so they're cold. We have a current of 0.57 amps, and that might go down once the lamps warm up. Yeah, she's it's not bright. I wasn't sure what to expect. I want to say it's a little brighter than what I had hoped, but it's still not very bright. Especially this one lamp is pretty dim right now. Line current is going down. We are at 0.52 amps. What's our wattage? 61 watts. So at best we're getting 30 watts a lamp, but of course once you account for ballast losses, we're probably getting closer to 20 watts per lamp, if not even less. But I'll let it sit here and warm up, and then we'll come back. Well, we've been running for a few minutes now. Lamps are pretty much the same brightness. And our line current is 0.5 amps, exactly the rating on the label. But here is something that's really throwing me off. A 0.98 power factor, nearly perfect power factor. Why? Is it just luck by virtue of the capacitance of the fluorescent lamps combined with the inductance of the ballast? Is the ballast so inefficient that it's got a ton of resistance to it? Or is it a high power factor ballast? I mean, there's no way it's a high power factor ballast. High power factor ballasts are usually in a bigger housing. They have to be. I'm just seeing what the label says. Yeah, I mean, the ballast would say high power factor on it if it was, and it doesn't. So I think it's just luck. Kind of funny though, we're getting nearly perfect power factor out of this thing. So I have the ability to measure lamp current, and I know somebody else who has one of these ballasts. They did tests and they made a record of what the lamp current was in different types of lamps. So let me get a multimeter. We'll make a little setup here so we can measure the lamp current and see just how underdriven these fluorescent lamps are. By the way, nice startup with this ballast. Very nice. Alright, I've got one lamp wired up to measure lamp current. Hopefully it still starts with one cathode out of commission, but let's see. Come on. Well, it was almost there. Well, I got it running here, and here's the result. 233 milliamps, which, again, is a little disappointing. The other person who has one of these ballasts and documented it extensively, with two 40-watt lamps, they got a lamp current of 165 milliamps. So like less than 15 watts per lamp. Whereas this calculates about to about 21 watts per lamp, which honestly is pretty normal for a residential grade ballast. I mean, I'm pretty sure that the high power factor ballasts in my troffers here run lamps at not too much more than that. So yeah, this is a little disappointing. That's way more current than the other person who has one of these got. And again, mine's got a ballast, or mine's got a label with different current markings on it. So I wonder if Advance, and this ballast is from, I forgot to show, it's got a date code 0204, so that's either 2002 or 2004, which is probably near the end of when they made this ballast. I wonder if near the end Advance actually improved the ballast and made it a bit brighter. Darn, I should have paid attention to the label markings before I bought it on eBay. Alright, well, we'll do another test. Let me grab two 34-watt lamps. I only have one, so I'll have to steal one from up there. So we will see how 34-watt lamps behave, and if indeed the fixture runs a lot brighter with them versus 40-watt lamps. Alright, two 34-watt lamps installed. Let's see how different it behaves. Ooh, that's dim. That's very dim. What's our current? Wait. I'm sorry, what? No. That makes no sense. This is a high power factor ballast. What? That makes no sense. Why? It can't possibly be. It's a residential grade ballast in the small case size. But the current is lower with 34-watt lamps. This makes no sense. Holy cow, this is dim with 34s. What? This makes no sense. No. I am very, very confused right now. So lamp current with 34-watt lamps is 285 milliamps. That comes out to about 22, 23 watts of power per lamp. So a couple of watts more than with it running 40-watt lamps. But again, this is exhibiting behavior like a high power factor ballast, because it's normal for a high power factor ballast to increase the lamp current slightly as lamp voltage decreases. But with a low power factor ballast, I would expect much more current than this. And as a matter of fact, the other person who has an HB-234-TP, the lamp current on their ballast it more than doubled with 34-watt lamps compared to 40-watt lamps. This is not double, this is just a slight increase. And once again, current 0.41 amps, lower than last time. Power factor is still 0.92. Every behavioral sign is pointing to that ballast being high power factor, and I don't understand. The people on Lighting Gallery are going to think I'm insane when I go on there and tell them that this is acting like a high power factor ballast. I am so confused. By the way, everything's matching up to what it said on the label in terms of lamp current. So what I thought was a misprint was not a misprint. It's behaving exactly as advertised. I just don't know why. But yeah, it's pretty fun. 34 watt lamps in this, really dim. This was as dim as I expected the 40 watt lamps to be. So you do get more light with the 40 watt lamps in this. Yeah, I don't get it. This is strange. This is really strange. And the ballast is nice and cool too, so there's not a bunch of waste resistance in it causing it to report a higher power factor. This is really strange, guys. I thought this video was going to be buying one of the crappiest F40 T12 ballasts ever made and laughing at how stupidly dim it is. What I got instead is a ballast that performs way better than other people's reports of this ballast, but also it's behaving like a high power factor ballast despite it should be a low power factor ballast. Advance always wrote high power factor on their ballasts that were high power factor. Also, this would be the first magnetic high power factor ballast I've ever seen in the small size ballast case. Nothing makes sense. My brain hurts and I'm scared. So yeah, I'm I'm gonna have to report the Lighting Gallery what the heck we all just witnessed. And while I didn't get what I was expecting out of this ballast, what I did get is one of the strangest and most unique ballasts that I've ever seen. So I guess I'm glad I have it. It's very interesting now from an experimentation standpoint. I still kind of wish I'd just gotten the one that's super weak and makes lamps super dim, but this is strange. I'm very weirded out by this, and I'm just gonna have to report my findings and see what other people think. Well, there you go, guys. That's been a look at this ballast. This video did not turn out to be what I thought it was gonna be, but boy howdy, has it been an interesting ride. And now I'm finishing up editing this video, and I did post a picture of the ballast on Lighting Gallery, wrote out the whole story of all the measurements I did and what I've found, as we've seen in this video. And so far, one person did get back to me, and they actually said that they have a different model of advanced ballast that is also high power factor, but it's not marked as such, and it comes in the smaller size ballast case. It's actually a ballast for 2 Circline lamps, still a rapid start ballast. It is the model RS-234-TP-W. Not marked high power factor, but it is definitely high power factor, and it turns out the ballast we've looked at today is also definitely high power factor. So very intriguing, very interesting, and it's pretty cool to have uncovered such a mysterious ballast that I don't think anybody has ever, took notice of outside of the person with this ballast, which is the same deal, just it's a ballast for Circline lamps. So very cool information we uncovered today. As such, I still want to get my hands on one of the older HB-234-TPs, one of the ones that really are low power factor, so I'll still be on the lookout for those, and when I get my hands on one, hopefully we'll compare the two, and we'll also take a look at the other one on its own merits and hopefully get that really dim goodness that I thought we were going to get in today's video. So there you go. Thank you so much for watching and exploring and experimenting with me, and I will see you in the next video.